Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 42 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It is in fact your main man, your friendly neighborhood T squared, Tristain Thomas, right here for you live and direct. Thank y'all all so much for joining us. I know we missed y'all last week, but we're back this week, and I have to excuse my mood because it's going to go from good to bad real quick. There's been a lot going on in Wisconsin sports, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get into state of the state, and let's start off with the good. Let's start off with some really good news. We missed you guys last week. We missed you so much, and I know you guys were looking for us, but you know, we had to go and do some things, and now we're back. And while we were gone, the Brewers decided to go ahead and win the National League Central Championship. In game 163, they had a tiebreaker Monday afternoon, which was last Monday afternoon. Won game 163, won their 96th game of the season, the best record in the NL. They sealed the number one seed in the postseason in the NL, home field advantage through the NL playoffs by beating the Cubs on their own home turf. It doesn't get much better than that. Or does it? Because just this past Sunday, the Brewers furthered their dominance and showed everybody why they should be respected and showed everybody why they are the best team in the National League and swept the Colorado Rockies 3 games in the NLCS to move on, the NLDS to move on to the NLCS. I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe it's a Freudian slip. Maybe they'll continue their dominance and sweep the Dodgers, who won their NLCS series just yesterday, to move on to the World Series or their NLDS series. So they're playing the Dodgers in the NLCS. I'm just too excited about this because I cannot recall ever being alive and seeing a Brewers team be this dominant. Now, I've heard that 82 team was something. I've watched the tape on those guys, and they were something. Had they had Raleigh Fingers in that World Series, they would have not lost to the Cardinals in 82 in 7 games. They have Raleigh Fingers. It's a done deal. The Brewers are World Series champions that year. And coincidentally, it's the year I was born. So, of course, the Brewers would be great when I'm born. But back to the story. I have not been of conscious mind of knowing what's going on and seeing a dominant Brewers team. Not even that 2011 team that went to the NLCS was quite this dominant, especially their bullpen. Bullpen was fantastic. The only person out of that bullpen that gave up a run was Jeremy Jeffress. That's it. The pitching staff as a whole, I believe, had a 0.64 ERA, some insane number, which prompted Craig Counsell during the celebration of them winning the NLDS, saying, "Damn, that pitching staff is good." And he's right. They are damn good. They are damn dominant. What can you say about the hitters? Hitters have been coming up with clutch hits. When you need it most, they've been coming up big. Eric Kratz is a guy who's really started to swing the bat very well at this time of the year. Of all people, you're talking about a guy who was signed and everyone's scratching their head like, okay, why are they signing this guy? And he could not hit a lick when he first got here in the summer. Could not hit a lick. And now he's being a consistent hitting machine, or at least he has been in the NLDS. It takes players like that. It takes unexpected contributions like that and continued team contributions to win a World Series. You're one step closer. The pitching staff has been phenomenal. They're not giving up much. Again, if your initial outgetter, and I'm doing air quotes while I'm saying this, it's what Craig Counsell likes to call his pitchers. They call them outgetters, but the guy who starts the game is the initial outgetter. If that guy goes at least 5 or 6, you're shortening that game, because once you get into that Brewers bullpen, it does not get easier. When you got guys like Jeffress and Knebel and Hader and Soria and Burns coming out of that bullpen, shutting you down, your best chance to get to the Brewers is to get to them through their initial outgetter. If you cannot do that, it's game over. And this has been their recipe all season long. There were points in time where I questioned Why is Craig Counsell pulling these guys after 5 or 6 when they're going very, very well? But then I think back, and I've said this right here on Toss many times and over the months, over the years. This game has shifted to a bullpen game. Your starter gets you 5, maybe 6, especially in the postseason. You hand it over to that great bullpen, which is why you build that bullpen up the way the Brewers have, the way the Royals did a few years ago in their World Series run, in their championship. They have flat out lights out bullpens. You hand it over to that bullpen. You got a bunch of outgetters out there that just shuts the opposing team down. And you're going to win a lot of games, especially a lot of these tight games. Now, Game 3 was not a very tight game. They broke that game open. Back-to-back home runs by Arcia and Broxton. 2 guys who could not hit a lick earlier this season. Both sent down to AAA because of it. And they're coming up and they're hitting home runs back-to-back. Just amazing. But you get clutch hitting. You have a bullpen that can shut it down. And you have a starter that can go 5 or 6 and give up virtually nothing. That is a recipe for a championship. And this is the way that Craig Counsell has played this game all season long. He has never wavered, even though a lot of people have wavered. Even though a lot of people have asked the question, why is he doing this? Myself included. Hey, this guy is cruising along. Why are you pulling him after 5? He's a forward-thinking manager, as is the GM, David Stearns. He's a forward-thinking GM. And these two work tremendously well together. They get it. They understand the trend. They understand what's happening in the major leagues and how games are being won. And they're executing that on the field. And David Stearns is executing that in his acquisitions. Guys who can play this type of game. Guys who can contribute. It really is just amazing to see. And now they have a tough challenge ahead of them. As I said before, the Dodgers won their NLDS series against Atlanta 3-1. Dodgers won the regular season series against the Brewers 4-3. But it's a brand new season. It's the postseason. You will have to see Kershaw. You will have to see Walker Buehler. You will have to see Ryu for the Dodgers. But the Dodgers are going to have to see that bullpen for the Brewers, especially if their initial outgetters get through and not give up any runs against the team that had the most home runs in the National League. The second most home runs in all of Major League Baseball, only second to the Yankees, who actually broke the record for most home runs in the season by a team. It's going to be a challenge keeping those guys in the ballpark, but I think it's a challenge the Brewers accept and they can execute on. So the Brewers, probably the good of the state, moving on to the National League Championship Series for the rights to represent the National League in the Fall Classic, the World Series. Much, much different team than 2011. I'm looking forward to that, and that series begins on Friday at Miller Park. Continuing on, if I can know how to speak right, here on State of the State, we have to talk Bucks basketball. That's right, folks. We've got everything going. Everything is going on right now. Brewers are playing meaningful October baseball. The Bucks begin their season next Wednesday, October 17th. Badgers are going. Packers are going, and we'll get to them later here in State of the State. But the Bucks are back. They're in preseason. To this point, they are 2-0 in preseason after their win. I believe it was 125-107. Correct me if I'm wrong on the score. I don't truly remember the score because it wasn't televised. How in the hell you don't have this game televised, even though it is preseason? How you don't have it televised in this day and age is beyond me. But kudos to Jim Paschke and Katie George, the new Bucks sideline reporter, for keeping everybody abreast of what was going on through Twitter. It was very entertaining that Sunday night. But they did televise their first preseason game against the Bulls at home. Jabari Parker came back. Whatever. Didn't have very much of an impact. What I was looking for in that game was really, to see how Mike Budenholzer's system, new head coach, would work with this roster. Who Budenholzer decided to start the game. Is that going to be his starting lineup going forward? Or is he still kind of tinkering with things in this 4-game preseason? And his rotations. Now, we knew these are three things, and obviously the defense, you're definitely going to be looking for that to improve. But we know those three things that I mentioned before are things that were not great under Jason Kidd. They flat out just were not. The starting lineup, he put Brogdon in the starting lineup. I thought he might bring Brogdon off the bench to be that guy that kind of spearheads that second unit. He's great, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. So I thought he might use that versatility. And who knows, he might still do that. He could be tinkering with this lineup. But to this point, he started Brogdon with Bledsoe in that lineup. Obviously, we knew that Brook Lopez, as soon as he was signed, he was going to be the starting center here. No question Giannis is there, and no question Middleton is there. So that's your starting lineup. I thought it was really interesting that he put Brogdon in essentially at the 2, which is actually his natural position. So to see him in that lineup, I'm like, who are they really going to bring off the bench in that rotation? He's kind of tinkered with that a little bit. He's brought a couple of guys in both games differently off the bench. So he's still kind of figuring out those lineups. But to this point, that starting lineup has worked pretty well. This offense has worked very well. It really encourages the extra pass. And that's something that you see in the Spurs system. And obviously Mike Budenholzer is a disciple of Greg Popovich from that Spurs system. And you can see it in his offense. It encourages the guys to make the extra pass. When their slashers go in, if that defense is going to collapse, you make that pass out to three-point shooters. If that three-point shooter is getting closed out on, when they realize the rotations on the defense, they kick that pass out, and they kick it out again, and they get good shots. I saw that constantly, especially in that first preseason game where guys are making the extra pass. It's beautiful basketball to watch when it's executed correctly. And you really see what Budenholzer wants to do. Go ahead and collapse your defense on Giannis. Go ahead and collapse your defense on Eric Bledsoe. Go ahead and collapse your defense on Chris Middleton, guys who can get to the basket. So guys like Brogdon, guys like Pat Connaughton, guys like Thon Maker could be sitting out there with wide open shots, Tony Snell. So guys could be sitting out there with wide open threes and sink them and put you in a further hole than you're already in. Go ahead and do that. That's Budenholzer's goal, and to this point in preseason, it's worked. Defensively, they still need a little bit of work. I still don't think they've gotten their rotations down. I still think they're kind of figuring things out on the defense, and they've said as much in their interviews after games and in practice that defense is something that's a work in progress. But with the length that this team has, the want to play defense this team has, now that you don't have Jabbar there, who was a huge defensive liability, I think that will improve. But I think that's something that's going to take a little bit of time to catch up to where the offense is currently. But overall, in these 2 preseason games, the lineups, the rotations, what they're trying to do offensively, defensively obviously needs a little bit more work, but that will come along. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I really am enjoying what I'm seeing. Guys are going to have roles. They're not going to be constantly looking over their shoulders for the DNP when they didn't do anything wrong. It's so different to have a guy who is truly in control of his roster, truly in control of adjustments to his system, stability. It truly is such a different thing to have. There's something that's been void in this franchise for such a long time at the head coaching spot. And to now have that, and to have a guy who teaches and have a staff that teaches along and teaches the right things, it's going to make a world of difference for this Bucs squad. And you're already starting to see that here in preseason. So next Wednesday, October 17th, season jumps off. I cannot wait. The long journey to the NBA playoffs begins. I'm really excited for this Bucs season. I think it's going to be something. It's not just because of the new 4-1 Forum, the Fiserv Forum. It's because this team has a head coach who knows what he's doing. It's going to truly put guys in position for all the success they could possibly handle. It's going to be a joy to watch it, I think, this season. Let's move on to the Wisconsin Badgers here on State of the State on Toss. They handled business at home against Nebraska. They did what they were supposed to do. 41-24 victory. It's pretty much the same old for Wisconsin. That offensive line wore out that Nebraska defensive line. Opened up gaping holes for Jonathan Taylor and Ingold and Taiwan Deal. Taylor goes for 221 and 3 touchdowns. Hornibrook is still up and down. He'll hit some guys, which he did. He'll miss guys, which he did. He was 13 to 24, 163 yards and a passing touchdown. We all know his favorite target outside of Tony Ferguson. It pretty much is Tony Ferguson. Pretty much is Tony Ferguson. Favorite target. So, I mean, what can you really say about the Badgers football team? It's same old, same old. They're not as great defensively as they had been the past couple of seasons, but they still go out there and do the job. Hornibrook still overthrows guys, but he'll hit some guys. Jonathan Taylor runs all over every single team he goes up against. And even with all of the chaos in the top 10 this past weekend, 3 top 10 teams losing, Wisconsin was at number 16 last week. This week, 15. So you're trying to tell me with all the chaos that occurred in the top 10, this team only moves up 1 spot, whereas Michigan, I believe, jumped 3 or 4. That seems crazy to me. I don't understand how that happens, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. Wisconsin is constantly disrespected. But on top of that, those 3 top 10 teams losing, that is the type of chaos I said the Badgers would need in order to sneak back up into that top 10 and possibly that top 8. Maybe get a New Year's 6 bowl game. But they have to continue to handle business. And they've got a big one on Saturday, prime time, against the very team that I just mentioned, Michigan. College game day is going to be there. This is a big game. Interdivisional battle. You got to go and handle business against these guys. So the Badgers, pretty much same old, same old. Taylor's still the best back in the country. Hornibrook, one of the more inconsistent quarterbacks in the country. The offensive line, probably the best offensive line in all the country. The defense, up and down, but they're still doing the job. But they still have a shot to do something special this year. Whether they get into the playoffs, I don't think they'll get into the playoffs because I judging by what happened this past week, again, with those 3 top 10 teams losing and them only moving up 1 spot in the rankings, I don't foresee them sneaking back up into that range of where they could possibly get into the playoffs, but I foresee a lot more chaos coming. This has been what it has been for the past few years. There's always been chaos in that top 10. But they got to handle business. That Michigan game on Saturday is huge. It's huge for your Big Ten championship hopes. It's big for your playoff hopes. They get this one, I think there's a good chance they catapult over Michigan. And if there's any more chaos in that top 10, they may very well be in the top 10 or sitting just outside of it at 11 or at 12. But they have to handle business. This is no slouch in Michigan. That is going to be a tough game. You just hope Hornibrook does not blow it. That's my one worry. I think Taylor will run the ball effectively. I think this offensive line will wear on Michigan's defensive line. I think this defense may be able to do just enough. But Hornibrook's got to make the throws. He cannot be sitting there overthrowing guys on easy throws, underthrowing guys on easy throws, inexplicably throwing the ball down the field when he should be throwing it away when he's under pressure. He's got to be better. But this is what we've been saying about him pretty much his entire career. We've seen good Hornibrook. We've seen bad Hornibrook. You just don't know which one you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. We need good Hornibrook against Michigan. So Saturday, Michigan, prime time, big-time game, interdivisional battle. Huge. So let's get to the bad and why my mood is now going to change. A lot of you have seen this. I mentioned this on the Toss Facebook page. That's facebook.com/TON Sports Show. TON Sports Show. The Green Bay Packers. I don't even know where to begin with this one. I really don't know where to begin with this one. Do I begin with Mason Crosby leaving 13 points on the field? The guy was 1 for 5 on field goals. He missed 4. Left and an extra point. Left 13 points on the field. And you lost by 8 when you really should have won by 5. Now, I could go in on Mason Crosby like most people want. There were people calling for him to be cut. I was not one of them. This guy has been a consistent kicker, a really good kicker for a really good long time in this league. You don't just cut somebody like that after one rough day. Everybody has it. I think this is an anomaly. I think and the thing is, if you go back and look at his stats at Ford Field, he has never kicked that well at Ford Field. Ever. I've just never seen him go this bad on one day. Even the year where he was consistently missing kicks, it was never this bad on one day. So no, you don't cut somebody like that. And I really like the move by Mike McCarthy to get into field goal position towards the end of the game, give him another shot. So that is his lasting impression on that game. Hey, I made one. I missed a bunch of other ones, but I cannot allow this to get my head. I got to go out there and do my job. I got to make these kicks. And that's what he did. So that's a really good coaching move on Mike McCarthy's part. So can I be mad that he missed those kicks? Yes, I'm mad because he did not do his job effectively well. That very well cost them the game. Again, 13 points left on the field. You lost the game by 8. You should have won it by 5 with those kicks. But you didn't. The officiating, god awful. But what else is new? See, I can say it because I'm not going to get fined. They're horrible. They're terrible. I can say a lot more, but I'm trying to keep it PG. They're hot garbage on a summer day. The punt return for Green Bay, and you got a Detroit player trying to push a Green Bay player into the ball so it becomes live and the Lions can recover it. It did hit a player. The official said it hit a Green Bay player. But when you look at the replay and you close in on it, and it's all over Twitter, you can see it for yourself. It touched a Lions player. Even a Packers player came out after the game and said, hey, the official told me that it did not hit you. We made that mistake. We got that one wrong. Too damn late now. After the defense did the job, getting off the field, keeping Detroit out of any scoring range, out of field goal range, out of touchdown range, all that. They get off the field. And you gift them the football on the 1-yard line, which they subsequently go and punch in to grab an early lead. A lead they did not relinquish. So I'm pissed off about them. Clinton Dix. Now, I've had a discussion about this on Twitter at the20double. And one play in particular. And I've gone back and forth with this person on Twitter about this. And the thing is, I 100% agree with them. The play that was called, the coverage that was called, calls for Clinton Dix on this play, and this is the touchdown by Jones in the back end of the end zone. Calls for Clinton Dix to come inside to give inside help, so that pass is very well not completed. But if you also look at the tape, which I have, you see there is a cornerback right there in that zone that goes and cheats to his left, leaving a wide open passing zone, which the ball was thrown into, and completed. If that cornerback does not cheat to his left, where there were already 3 other defenders, there's a good chance he can make a play on that ball. That pass is not completed. So this is not the first time Clinton Dix has guessed wrong, but the cornerback also had a hand in it. I'm not trying to put everything on Clinton Dix, but the fact that he's continuing to guess wrong this season after a rough year last season is a little bit scary. You don't have Morgan Burnett back there anymore. He's on Pittsburgh. You don't have a guy back there to cover up for all those mistakes. These corners are young. They have all the talent in the world. You were missing Jair Alexander and Rashad Breeland, who we thought would be making his season debut, but he ended up with an injury. They have to learn. They have to become instinctual. But Clinton Dix has been in the backfield long enough to know and to be better than that. So I'm mad about that. Aaron Rodgers. I'm mad about him too. Oh, here we go. Packers fans are going to be pissed off about this one. Yeah, I'm pissed off at Aaron Rodgers. Why? Because he continuously overlooks checkdowns to try to go for it all. I've said this on my Toss blog, on tossnationmedia.com. I've said this on Home Court Sports. I've said this right here on this space on Toss. He has continuously looked over the check down passes and easy completions to go for it all and tough completions. This is a problem. Now, you can sit down and look at the stats and see that Rodgers threw for 442 yards and 3 touchdowns. Most of that damage done in the second half. Usually if he does that, you win the ball game. But some of those missed throws, some of those missed check downs, those overlooked check downs were causes for stalled drives, which made you have to put Mason Crosby in position to kick in a place that he has not kicked well in. And it's cost you points. So I'm pissed off about that. But most importantly, I'm pissed off at Mike McCarthy. Here's a guy who screams balance. We need balance as a football team on offense. We need to be able to run the football effectively and throw the football effectively. But for a guy who screams balance, and he threw the football 52 times. He dialed up 52 passing plays against the Lions last Sunday. Compared to 20 runs. You were running the football very effectively. 20 carries for 98 yards. This has been the story all season long. The Packers can run the football despite their ranks in the NFL for running yardage per game. The whole reason why I believe they're 19th is because McCarthy abandons the run, even if it's going well. Even if the score does not dictate for him to abandon the run, he abandons the run. This is not balance. 52 pass plays and 20 running plays is not balance. Even further than that, Aaron Jones, 7 carries for 40 yards. This man was giving you damn near 6 yards per clip. He has been giving you damn near 6 yards per clip every time he touches the football out of that backfield. And how do you reward him? By giving him the fewest snaps. Of all 3 of the Packers running backs, Ty Montgomery, Jamal Williams, and Aaron Jones had the fewest snaps of them all. This man is one of the most explosive players you have. This man is one of the more dynamic players you have. And you are not giving him ample opportunity to go out there and make plays. And then you have the gall to come out on Monday and talk about how dynamic of a football player he is. But it takes more to being a running back than just being explosive or whatever his words were. Whatever it was, it left me dumbfounded. As a coach, it is your job to find your best players, your most explosive players, and put them in position for success. You have one in Aaron Jones, and you don't even bother to put him on the field. I get it. I get what he's trying to say, but at the same time, it's asinine because you have a guy who is explosive, who could be a special running back. You said it yourself. But you do not give him the opportunity to go out there and make plays. Is Aaron Jones as good of a blocker as Ty Montgomery or Jamal Williams? No, he's not there yet, but can he learn? Absolutely. And I get that's something that you need to have. But that's all a moot point. Protecting Aaron Rodgers is all a moot point if you have an explosive player who could take it to the house if you give him enough carries on every carry. He's shown you this. But you don't get him on the field. The offensive play calling is what it is. You went back and you reworked your playbook. You got Joe Philbin back, the same guy that you collaborated with just a few seasons ago, to produce the NFL's #1 offense, scoring 30.1 points per game, and it's looking like the same old garbage. You got receivers running to each other in the same spots. It seems like the same old stale offense with no explosion to this point. Now, a lot of it is going on. A lot is going on. You know, Rodgers is not as sharp as we know him to be. He's not been as accurate as we know him to be. He continues to overlook the checkdowns. The receivers in the game were young. You were missing Geronimo Allison and Randall Cobb. You might be missing Cobb for some more games, so those young guys are going to play. But as a head coach, it is your job to put those guys in the best position. It is your job to put your most explosive players in position for success. But you cannot do that if you decide to keep them off the field. And that's what McCarthy has done. So that's why you're sitting here at 2-2-1, searching for answers. That Detroit game was winnable. You beat yourself. You outclassed Detroit in every single facet of the game. You had more passing yardage than they did. You had more rushing yardage than they did. You had better time of possession than they did. You had more first downs than they did. You also had more penalties than they did. You had more sacks than they did. You beat them across the board, except in between all that and the referees, you beat yourself. Those missed kicks, those missed check downs, not putting your most explosive players on the field. It's your own damn fault that you lost this game. Detroit didn't win that game. The Packers beat themselves. So as I stated before, you're 2-2-1. You have a primetime Monday night game against San Francisco, who does not have Jimmy G, out for the season with a torn ACL. But they can still come out here and get you, especially if you're going to beat yourself like that, especially if you don't put your best players on the field like that. It's going to be interesting on Monday. It's going to be really interesting on Monday. 2-2-1. That is your record currently. Last game before the bye week. You have a chance to either gain some momentum or put yourself in an early hole to try to make the playoffs. I know we're still a ways away from that, but this is really a pivotal game. You have to win that ball game. You have to give yourself some momentum going into the bye week, because after the bye week, it is a murderer's row of ball games you have. That schedule is no joke. So you better get this win, because the next couple of weeks after that bye week, wins are going to be extremely hard to come by. So that's the state of the state. The Brewers are moving on to the NLCS. They did so in dominant fashion. They begin that series against the Dodgers on Friday with a chance to play in the World Series. Amazing. Bucks basketball is back 2-0 preseason. The Budenholzer offense is looking good. The defense is coming along, still learning, but I think they'll get there. Regular season starts next Wednesday. Cannot wait. The Badgers took care of business at home, Camp Randall, as they should. They have a huge game, huge Big Ten battle against Michigan on Saturday in prime time. And the Green Bay Packers still searching for answers. 2-2-1. Primetime Monday Night Football game coming up on Monday against San Francisco. They have to get that one because the next 2 weeks after their bye week, wins will be tough to come by. Coming up on Toss, we have to run the toss sweep. And there was some chaos in Las Vegas on Saturday after the fight between Khabib and Conor McGregor. What is going on now with that situation? We'll talk a little bit about it in the toss sweep. Coming up next. TossNationMedia.com is your home for the Toss brand of sports. That's the Tristain Sports Show Toss that you're listening to right now. That's the Toss blog that you can read all types of good stuff. And it's also a lot of other stuff. A lot of great stuff from the Toss brand of sports. So go right now. TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. It's your main man, T-Squared Tristan Thomas. Thanks for continuing on with us. And it's time for us to run the Toss sweep. Saturday, fight night, nothing better. UFC 229, hell of a card. My fight of the night, personally, Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis, Milwaukee's own, slugged it out. Hell of a fight. Two warriors, unfortunately. Pettis broke his hand. You hate to see that, but man, what a performance by both those guys. Tony Ferguson gets his hand raised. But then the main event, Khabib, McGregor. Fight everybody's been looking forward to. Lightweight championship on the line. And these dudes boxed it out. Now, most of this fight was dominated by Khabib. Let's make no mistake about it. McGregor had his moments. Showed a little bit of defense from Khabib's wrestling. But overall, Khabib dominated that fight. Ended up making McGregor tap out. That is a definitive win. Decisive win. There is no question about that win. You make a man tap out, that's it. Except it wasn't it. Because Khabib decided to go and jump outside of the cage when one of Conor's cornermen was talking mess. We don't know exactly what was said, but the fight was over. He jumps out of the cage. He goes to go and box this dude. So now we got chaos outside of the cage. Inside the cage, McGregor's trying to recover. He's getting up. And now all of Khabib's dudes are in the cage. And one of them slugs Conor McGregor from behind. Just absolute sucker punches him. Now there's a melee inside of the cage. This is after the fight. This is not even during the fight. This is after the fight. They finally clear things out. Khabib wanted the belt put on him in the middle of the octagon. Dana White said, hell no, because people are going to start throwing stuff down here. They're going to start raining upon you down here, and we're not having it. He was worried about Khabib even making it to the back, and people started to throw stuff anyway. After the fight, everybody's just trying to sort this mess out. They were going to hold both fighters' purses. They decided to only hold Khabib's $2 million purse. They gave McGregor his $3 million. Khabib's $2 million purse is still being held as we speak because NSAC, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, is still investigating this. The commission is deciding to put complaints on both fighters, which in this case, I really don't agree because Conor McGregor didn't do anything. He didn't incite any of that. Khabib's boys had no business going in there going to box McGregor. Like, look, I get that you mad about the events of McGregor throwing the dolly at the bus back in April. That was some weak stuff by McGregor. And the fact he got a slap on the wrist for that was some weak sauce stuff too. But you had your chance at redemption and revenge against that dude in the octagon for your championship. And you did that. You thoroughly beat the hell out of this dude. You made him tap out. That should be sufficient enough. Now, I get it. Throughout their press conference tour, McGregor running his mouth as he normally is. He's talking about Khabib's dad. He's talking about Khabib's religion. And I get how that could hit you. But all of that physical pain you want to inflict on him, you had the opportunity to do that over the course of 4 rounds in that fight. And you did so. You thoroughly dominated that dude. But it wasn't enough. So now where the hell does this stand? Again, NSAC is going to put complaints on both fighters. Again, I don't agree with that. I think Khabib's team incited all this. McGregor was very much the victim in this. Regardless of him running his mouth, they had their fight. You could extract all your revenge and all your anger out on him in there. And he did. Khabib did that. He didn't do anything after the fight. He did not deserve that. They're still withholding Khabib's purse, which is $2 million. They're still pouring over the tape. Who did what? Some of Khabib's boys were UFC fighters. Dana White came out in a press conference on Saturday and said, look, at the time he did not know who they were. He said if they're UFC fighters, they'll never fight in the UFC after that. He said the governor was in the building and he went scurrying away. It's a bad look. And some of those boys for Khabib were, in fact, UFC fighters. So Dana White said to this point, they'll never fight in the UFC. So they've screwed themselves, and there's further trouble coming, especially for the guy who punched McGregor from behind. There's trouble for Khabib. Is he going to be suspended? Probably. I think NSAC is going to come down on him hard. Dana White's already said, look, NSAC is taking the lead on this. Once they're done, then we'll have to take according punishment after that. We'll make decisions according to their punishment after that. There's a chance that Khabib could be stripped of his championship, especially if he's suspended for a good long while. Knowing this, McGregor's already come out, hey, I want a rematch. He's already asked for a rematch. Now, here's my problem with this. You tapped out. That is a definitive win. There is nothing. Now, look, would I enjoy watching that fight again? Yeah, probably. Probably. But there is nothing about that fight that screams rematch. If anybody should be first in line for that championship, and that's assuming that Khabib won't be suspended so long that he gets it stripped from him, should be Tony Ferguson. The winner of that Ferguson-Pettis fight should be first in line for a shot at that championship. They've both fought themselves into title fight contention. Ferguson definitely deserves it. So if anything should happen, Ferguson should happen first. Then the winner of that Poirier fight should be the one after that. Then it should go Conor McGregor. But instead, it's probably going to be McGregor, then Ferguson, then the winner of the Poirier fight. And I don't agree with that. But this whole thing is just an absolute mess. Like, I've been present when Mike Tyson bit Holyfield's ear. I was present for that. The Malice in Palace, Detroit, Indiana, was around for that. Those were two surreal scenes. This may have trumped both of them. That's how crazy it was. Just an amazing scene. Just amazing. It is a black eye on the sport, on the UFC. How they handle things from here on out is really going to tell the story. I just hope that in the future, people are able to leave it in the octagon. There's no reason for it to get to the point where it spills out of the octagon and into the audience. There's no reason for that. There's never a reason for that, no matter who says what to you. You just went through 4 rounds of thoroughly beating that dude who's incited all that pain and angst amongst you. This was your night. And in one swift decision, you threw it all away. That's a damn shame. You got to be better. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been episode 42 of Toss, the Tristain on Sports Show. Quick programming note. Next Wednesday, Home Court Sports will return, which means this Wednesday, October 10th, there will be no new Home Court Sports. That's right, no new Home Court Sports this Wednesday, but we will be back for the opening of a brand new NBA season, a brand new Bucks season, and we are excited. Remember, you can catch us live and direct, myself and Professor P, Home Court Sports Show. Facebook.com/Home Court Sports. Finally got the kinks worked out of that. That's Facebook.com/Home Court Sports. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be back next Wednesday on that. Hey, you guys know the website, but I'll give it to you anyway. TossNationMedia.com. That's TossNationMedia.com. Toss is also on Facebook. That's Facebook.com/Tion Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. We cover every single thing else that we don't get a chance to cover here. So if you want more of me, you can go to TossNationMedia.com or Facebook.com/Tion Sports Show. And you know my social media, but I'll give it to you again at the20double. That's the word the number 2, the number 0, and the word double on both Instagram and Twitter. You can get a hold of me there. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you that I'm the one and only, and so are you. Embrace it. Until next week, so long from Toss.